This is Sarah, and I just want to take a moment to speak to you about this week's sponsor, Favor. Favor Inc. is a statewide family-led nonprofit 501c3 organization that is committed to empowering families as advocates and partners in improving educational and health outcomes for our children. Favor is the Connecticut state organization of the Federation of Families for Children's Mental Health. Favor offers a single place for families with children who have medical, mental, emotional, and behavioral health challenges to find information, assistance, and training. To find out more about Favor, please go to favor-ct.org. We are grateful for our opportunity to work with Favor as a sponsor, and now on to the rest of the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Chronicles. My name is Sarah, and today I have Ann Page, a speech and life pathologist, and she's the founder of beautifulspeechlife.com. Hi, Ann. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. It's so nice to be here.
Thank you so much. We're so thrilled to have you here. Would you like to further introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure. I am a speech language pathologist based in Arizona. I work in the school system, and I really focus on working with students that use AAC or need AAC, whether they're using it for the augmentative piece, which is where they're using it in addition to how they're already communicating, or if they're using it a lot. It's actually really fascinating, and I love what I do.
That's great. As you know, and as most of my audience knows, our son does use an AAC device. This is a topic. It's a topic that we've covered before on Caregiver Chronicles, but it's a topic that there is always more information to share. So I'm excited to have you on to talk about it. Would you like to talk about your experiences as a speech and language pathologist that led you to want to work with AAC?
Yes, yeah, for sure. So I started working in the schools. I had moved back to Arizona from Canada, and I got a job working for the schools as a speech language pathologist. And I had a full caseload of kiddos, and I had quite a few. I think at that point I had 60 or 70 students on my caseload, and of those 70 students, I would say about 20 or probably 20 or 24 of them were in what we call in Arizona functional skills classes. So these are the classes where our students are working on life skills as opposed to straight out academic skills. And so I had a lot of students with Down syndrome, autistic students, developmental delays, and I had a lot of students that were non-speaking, and I had a few that already had an AAC device, and I was really not prepared to understand how to work with those students to really help them, because in school, at that time, I'm hoping it's getting better now, but we weren't given a lot of training on AAC. You could take an elective class on it. And since then, I've taken a ton of training, but that's kind of what got me going, was like that feeling of helplessness, of really, really wanting to help these kids, but not knowing how. And so that kind of started this long journey. That was in 2007.
Okay. Yeah, so that's when, this technology kind of really started to, or the technology of the iPads kind of really started to take off. And, I don't think iPads were really much of a thing before that.
No.
I mean, few people would have them, but not many.
Yeah, I think it was a few years later, because the kids that did have a device, they were like the dedicated devices. So they were those big clunky things that were so heavy and so expensive. And so now with iPads and good AAC apps, it has made AAC so much more affordable. And we're able, because before we were always kind of reliant on insurance companies and Medicaid paying for the devices, because I work in a Title I school and there weren't funds. And so, but now where you can get an iPad and an app for under $1,000, then that makes it much more doable. And we're starting to be able to get AAC into the hands of a lot more students, which is fabulous.
I know here in Connecticut, Medicaid does cover AAC devices. That's how we got our sons. And there are a lot of insurance companies that will cover that. You just have to kind of fight them a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and I also know that if your insurance company will cover it and it's deemed necessary, the school will help provide one. Yes. So in this state, I know every state is different with that stuff, unfortunately. It'd be nice if there was just a universal, like, oh, you need an AAC device? Here you go. In a couple years, we'll upgrade it as it needs to be upgraded, because that's the other thing about technology. But in a perfect world, that would be the way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then I did want to just mention real quick for your listeners, in case there's anyone that's like really looking at getting AAC for their child, or if they're struggling, there is a company called Devices called Quick Talker Freestyle, and the company is EnableNet, and they are really great at working with your insurance company. So if you contact them, they have a website, and you can as a parent, you can contact them, and they'll kind of get the ball rolling for you and contact your insurance for you. I've worked with them several times to help students get devices. So that's just a little tip.
No, awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate any advice like that, not just for me, but for my audience. Do you want to talk about why you created Beautiful Speech Life, your website?
Yeah. I did that. I started it just like as a blog, like when blogs were really big. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the life of a school speech therapist. Then it kind of has evolved where I was writing articles about speech therapy, and then I found Teachers Pay Teachers, which is a really cool website that is a marketplace for teachers and for parents too, to get different therapy materials or learning materials, and they're PDFs and downloadable. So I started putting products on there, and then I kind of used the website to talk about some of the products and other things that are available for people. And during the pandemic, I used it to try and get information out to parents and to SLPs that were struggling with what to do during the shutdown. And so during pandemic, and what do we do with our AAC kids? And so many people were really struggling. And so I created a little free course called AAC at Home. And then I did some videos on ways that you could use AAC just during your daily routine. So like brushing your teeth, washing the dishes, walking the dog. I just kind of made videos and showed different core vocabulary words that you could use during those activities. For your listeners that might be new to AAC, core vocabulary words are our power words. So those are the words that you usually see when you see like a grid of symbols on an AAC device. All those words that are kind of on the front, those are the ones that those are the words that a typically developing 2-year-old would use most frequently. And it's also, core words make up about 80% of what we say. So they are the words like the pronouns and the action words, and like the WH question words. So like who, what, why. I was just showing like some ways that you could use those words in daily activities. And by kind of focusing on those words, we're looking at being able to give kids a way to transfer their learning and their vocabulary to other environments and situations, which can be really difficult for kids with autism. And I know there's a thing right now and so I don't know what you prefer, where some people in the autism community prefer us to say autistic, and then some people still prefer student with autism. So I try to kind of go back and forth. But if somebody says this is the way I want it, then of course I will respect that.
So to answer that, to be inclusive, because the community itself is so divided, I go back and forth between terms. My kids are on the spectrum or my kids are autistic. I always go back and forth. My younger son can't advocate how he prefers to be defined. He just doesn't have that capacity yet to advocate and understand that. My oldest son says, I can't leave my autism, like it's always with me, so I'm an autistic person. And I let him go with what he feels is appropriate. So we do go back and forth on that. I know that there's so much, and I think it's sad that there is so much controversy in the community on that. I feel like that's something that we could just respect each other on, and this is how you choose to be called, this is how I choose to be called. But yeah. That's a little bit of a side thing, but I actually do kind of appreciate you touching on that because I feel like it's not touched on enough.
Yeah, and it's out there for sure. It's a hot topic.
Yes, it is. It's when we have covered it a little bit on Caregiver Chronicles, and I have talked to people like, guests that I've had that are autistic. Do you prefer a person with autism, or do you prefer to be called an autistic person? I let it be up to them. I'm not going to pick a label for somebody. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's not fair for us to do that. That's their job, and everybody else should respect their label for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really, like I said, I've been through your website and I follow you on Instagram. I've been following you on Instagram for a little bit. You have 29,000 followers on Instagram.
I know, isn't that crazy?
You're like a Kardashian. That's you.
That's funny.
That's huge. Congratulations on that. Do you feel like it's all people with kids who are nonverbal?
I feel like it's a combination of, I have a lot of parents that are following me that have either a child with autism, or they have like some connection with wanting to use AAC, and then a lot of speech therapists and some teachers, special education teachers. So yeah, I welcome anybody that wants to listen to what I have to say, and my intention with Instagram, with my Instagram account, is to provide information and either in an entertaining or inspiring way. I like to just give ideas and kind of show. Lately, I've gotten permission to show a couple of the students that I work with, and I think that really helps people, because then they can, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can see what's going on and how it's happening. So that's the big piece for me to be able to, and it's a lot of work for sure because you need to remain consistent and conscientious that you're providing good content, but it's really fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Congratulations on that, and well deserved too. You're doing amazing things for kids and families, and I'm super, like I said, I'm super thrilled to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
So your AAC Academy, do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Like, what does that entail? What does it cost families?
Yeah, so AAC Academy, I started 4 years ago, and I did that because I wanted to be able, I was getting frustrated because there wasn't a lot of, at that time, there wasn't a lot of training out there. And so I had taken a lot of courses. Anytime I could find anything on AAC, then I would take the course, and then made an effort to stay up on the research. And this has just been like in the last I would say in the last maybe 2 or 3 years, that there's a lot more interest in AAC than there used to be. I used to feel like I was kind of almost alone, but I did have at the time Practical AAC they have an incredible website and also Instagram, and that's Dr. Carol Zangari, and she was from the university that I graduated with my master's degree from, and then also Susan Berkowitz. I learned a lot from both of them, and then I thought, well, if it was so difficult for me to find out information and I'm like kind of plugged into the community, then it must be really difficult for people that are maybe more in a rural area, or for parents or for teachers. And so then I thought, why don't I like do a course and I'll teach what I have learned, because I've gathered a lot of information. And then I thought, if I really this is like deep, but I was kind of thinking like when you look at your whole life, and then I thought, I really wanted to, that's why I became a speech language pathologist. I really wanted to help. I really wanted to make a difference in some lives. And I feel like I have been blessed to be able to do that with my students. But then I thought, okay, I have all this knowledge. I don't want it just to like end when I end. And so I thought, how can I help more kids and help more SLPs not be frustrated and help more parents? And I thought, okay, if I just need to like create an army, get the information out there. And then as you train an adult, then they're going to be able to help like more kids. And if you train a teacher, then she's going to have that skill for her whole life. And the same thing with SLPs. So that's kind of how that got started. And so AAC Academy is basically a course on all the foundational skills for successfully using AAC. And then it's membership based. So you pay by the month. And so you're learning every month. And then there's a community aspect as well, because there's a Facebook group and you can ask questions. And so that was kind of like, that's where I'm at with that. And I'm actually looking at, within the next month, I'm going to do like an intensive course that'll be delivered over 6 months that will have more coaching and more input from me, because it seems like people really want that. You learn the skills. And so you learn, okay, I need to model for for this kiddo. I need to show him, I need to talk like I'm talking on AAC, and so that he can understand that that's what we want him to do. And so basically use AAC to teach AAC. But then people have questions once they get out there and they're trying it and they're like, okay, this really didn't work. What's going on? And so then it's the ability to come back and ask somebody that might be able to help you. Awesome. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that's okay. That's fine. It's an in-depth answer, and in-depth answers are a good thing on a podcast, so I appreciate it.
Oh, good.
So the AAC Jumpstart I saw on your website, is that different than the AAC Academy, and how?
Yeah, that is actually a little bit different. I created that 2 years ago, and it's sort of like the AAC Academy, like maybe 4 months of it, like all kind of crammed into a course. Because I thought, maybe some people don't want a membership. Maybe they would prefer to have a course and have everything right there, and they'll just like whip right through it, especially during the pandemic. And so that's what that is. It's basically sort of a foundational course for beginners on AAC and how to really get started. Awesome. So a Jumpstart is like short term. And then, and it also comes with once you finish it, you get a free 1 month membership in the AAC Academy. So AAC Academy is more long-term, so if you're kind of committed to learning and going on your AAC journey for a little bit longer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That's good to know because that might help someone decide which, what is right for me.
Yeah.
So another thing you've talked about on your website a little bit was AAC paralysis. That's a interesting term. Can you explain that?
Well, I found like that a lot of people get really scared of and still like I still run into this quite a bit. It's like it's something different. And so like say for example, if you're a speech therapist and you're used to having a caseload of kids that you're working on grammar, you're working on articulation, and then you change schools and you have a classroom full of kids that need AAC. So there's a tendency to panic because you're like, I don't know anything about AAC, or I know a little bit of what I've seen, but I've never used it. And then you add the tech piece to it. And that is like that combination of like something that you don't know. So then there's fear of the unknown. And then there's like technology. You put all those together. And sometimes that can really scare people. And so they end up not doing anything. And it's so sad because then you see like a student will come to school, mom will send the AAC device, it's in his backpack, and it never comes out of the backpack. Or maybe it comes out on the day that he gets speech therapy, but maybe the speech therapist doesn't even know what to do with it. And so they pull it out and they're like, well, he doesn't use it. And that's the paralysis piece. Like it's, and I also used to call it FOUA, so fear of using AAC. Unfortunately, it's still around, and I'm trying to kind of make that. I would love it if that was a thing of the past, so that if people would really jump on board, and I'm trying to, like, it's my intent to show ways that it doesn't have to be hard. So I even recently have a student that just got a device, and he's really young, he's preschool, just got a device, and the mom doesn't have time to come in and do training because she's working full time and doesn't want to come in after school, and I don't blame her. And so I started making like little videos for her just to show her, okay, this is like a little starting piece. And so I always like to start with, this is like, I start really basic, like with, this is where you turn the device on. This is where the volume is. This is the app, and this is the home page. And here is how you maneuver through it. Because a lot of them are, you touch a button and it takes you to another page. That's called a two-hit. So you touch a button, like say, for example, if we were wanting to say watch TV. So you touch the watch button and it's going to take you to another page. Watch is still going to be there, but it's like got this great language prediction for you. So at the top, it's got all of these things that you might want to watch. So it's got like movies, TV, et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of walking a person through, okay, this is how this happens. Then it's going to come up here in the top in the sentence bar. This is how you delete. And then a really important thing that is so cool that we have now that we didn't used to have is the word finder. So there's like a spot where you can go, because all the time we're going to want to say a word and we don't know where it's at, especially when we're starting. So you just use the word finder and you talk through it while you're doing it so that the kiddo can see it too, so that he thinks it's okay and maybe one day he'll use it.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great. And I just want to touch back on the paralysis of like the teacher. I had my son had a speech pathologist through the school who was reluctant to use his iPad because she basically said that they make the kiddos lazy. That really frustrated me. As a mom who saw him have success, he was at the very least able to communicate some of his basic needs. I want juice box. I want snack. I want TV. it's not in-depth talk, but at least I know when it at least prevented meltdowns in my house. And that's how important, like, it prevented the juice box or the snack or the TV show meltdown, because God forbid you put the wrong TV show on when you wanted something, but he had no way to communicate it.
Right.
So, it really upset me when she said that. Do you have any thoughts on, do you feel like maybe she was experiencing like paralysis? She was older. She wasn't older.
I feel like she was experiencing ignorance. And I don't mean that in a mean, I don't mean it in a mean way. I mean that she was experiencing a lack of knowledge, in that not really knowing what the possibilities are, or maybe she had a bad experience with a kid that only used an iPad to play on. And I do want to say, and this might be a tangent that you'll need to pull me back from, but so many times I like to see the iPad only used for communication, because so many times I have seen it happen where, and it just breaks my heart, where the kid will get a device, and then they get at school, they need a babysitter. So they take it out of the communication app and let them watch YouTube on it. Well, then they start associating it with YouTube. And would you rather watch YouTube, which is easy and fun, or communicate, which is hard to you? Of course, you're going to pick YouTube every time. So then we get device abandonment. So now, if I have any control, I set the device into guided access so that you cannot get out of the device. And I know that when you get older, so like say when your son's a teenager, then he should have free choice, and maybe he could go back and forth. But when they're learning and they're learning language, it's just a really bad idea.
Yep. No, I actually wholeheartedly agree with that. My son has his communication iPad, and then he has his iPad to watch videos on, or we don't do too much screen time with the iPad with him anyway. But if we're going for like when we visit my in-laws in Missouri, we're in the car from Connecticut to Missouri, which is like 18-hour drive. There's a lot of screen time in the car.
For sure.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get there. And if that means he's watching 18 hours of Color Crew, it keeps him calm.
But he's happy.
Exactly. That's one of those things where it's like, I think that there's days where I'm not like an anti-screen time mom, and I'm not like a super pro screen time mom. I'm kind of neutral on it. Sick days where your kiddo's sick, snuggling and watching TV all day. What else are you going to do? I don't,
Yeah.
There is a lot of times where it's totally appropriate to give your kid extra screen time.
I agree.
But I completely agree with the theory, like the belief that it should be just for communication, nothing else. We don't use, other than to take pictures of people and places.
That
like I am not on his AAC. I don't come preloaded on an AAC app. I have to take a picture of myself and put it on, and a picture of my husband, my brother, family members that he's close to.
Yeah. And I just did that. Actually, I just did that for a kiddo where he loves, what's it called? Paw Patrol. And so then I wanted to make a Paw Patrol key for him. So I just used his device to take a picture of it on my computer and zeroed in on it. So it's so fast and easy to do that now. But I wanted to go back to that when you were talking about the teacher that said that, which unfortunately we still run into that. But what I always try to say to people is like, try to imagine yourself and you can't, there's something you really want to communicate. You have no way to do it. You don't have the words. You don't have the ability to speak the words. It's something, what if it's something that's out of sight? Because a lot of times they'll be like, well, I understand. People will say, I understand what he's saying in the classroom. And my comeback for that is always, you might understand what his immediate needs are in reference to the classroom, but can he tell you what he did last night? Can he tell you that he's thinking about his mom and he really misses her? When he goes outside of the classroom into the principal's office, can he tell him anything? It's like, you're really, okay, so I'm on a soapbox now, but it's like, so you're taking something away from you, from them. You're taking away opportunity for humanity. Like, communication is what makes us humans, our ability to reach out to other people and say what's like our independent thoughts and feelings and what's in our heart. And so we need to do everything we can to help them expand that ability, not to take it away from them because it's convenient for us.
Absolutely. I agree with that, 1,000%. My son has asked for family members. He kind of is more of an I want kiddo. He hasn't gotten past that level yet, but we're working on it. He also has done with people, I love you. And he did I love you, Grampy, one day. I love you, Grampy. My dad was the tears. My dad's sitting there. He's just an old hippie and he's just bawling. He's like, he's kind of like one of those older like hippies, but he is a little bit of a tough guy, like outdoorsman-y hippie, like he's just crying. He's like, this is the most beautiful thing.
Aww.
And actually, another reason we were a little bit sad about leaving my son's old AAC device behind, because it had a picture of my grandmother on it, and she had passed away.
Oh.
And so I'm going to have to get a picture of her for his new one, because it's kind of sad, but he still says, I want Meme Tardy, or he'll hit Meme Tardy, Meme Tardy.
Uh-huh.
He'll go, my mom had an in-law apartment for her, and he'll go to her side of the house and say, Meme Tardy, Meme Tardy. So it's just like, it tells you that he remembers her.
Yes, and he's thinking about her.
Yeah, and it's just, and he knows that that's where she lived. That was her side, and it's sad because it's like, it's sad and sweet all at the same time. I don't think he understands that she passed away.
Probably not.
I don't think he gets that, but he does ask for her, and she's not here right now, because what can you say? What do you say?
Yeah.
But he is just, and I don't want him to, I don't think I want to take that away from him, to erase her memory from him. I don't think I want to do that. I feel like that would be kind of cruel. Yeah. Anyway, but we love, like I said, I have been trying to train my family, and even when I don't have the AAC available, which is not often, but, we go camping and things like that, and where we camp, there's not really electric hookup. So to plug an iPad in, it would waste resources that we don't necessarily have. It would drain batteries on vehicles. That could lead to another set of problems. So we take packs with us, or even just for hikes or playgrounds and things like that. We keep a PEC string with us and things like that. And it's got his favorite things on there, things he might need in the moment, the places that we are. I feel like it's important to do that. And like, I want to touch back on what you were saying before with using AAC language. I will often use language with him, like first this, then this on the AAC. But if I don't have that around, I will say first, then in other places, and just use just a similar, like, matter-of-fact format with him when I'm working with him. How do you feel about parents that want total communication, not just one specific way to communicate for their kid?
I think it makes sense. And if you think about the way, like, all the kids that I work with, we are total communicators. Like, we accept however they are communicating, because if you think about it, we as adults have different ways of communicating. We speak, we talk with our hands. Like me, I gesture all the time, and we use our expressions. So there's the whole nonverbal, we text. So that's just, it's normal. It's natural to have like all different ways to communicate. And so if I have a student that speaks, or is maybe they're like unintelligible, but you understand some of the words, then if they've got their device and they say the word and I know what it means, then I don't make them say it on their device. I might, for clarity, say, oh, whatever, frog or whatever they're saying. I'll be like, oh, frog, right? And, but then I don't say touch frog. That was like a thing that we used to do because we thought we were helping them, but we want their communication to be their communication, like for it to be spontaneous and autonomous so that it's their own. But I love that you take additional like visual communication for him. And another thought would be if you did like you could screenshot his main screen and print it and laminate it. So there's all different ways, but yeah, I think that, or even you could have like a core board, whatever works, or like different choice boards, just for continuity and for ways for him to understand and be able to communicate.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I've even told people who are working with like Alzheimer's patients who maybe didn't have a lot of resources, maybe they came from mom, had to take time off their job, that they could just take a piece of cardboard and put yes in a happy face and no in a frowny face on one side. And if you have to use that to get them to point to, did you want this? Yes, no, because aphasia or stroke patients, things like that. Because there's so many reasons a person may have difficulties communicating, and it's not just kiddos. There are adults and older adults and seniors. And, Caregiver Chronicles is kind of a bridge between pediatric care, elder care, and care for anybody. So that's just, and it's something, like I said, even if you have limited resources, find a cardboard box.
Right. You could just use a cereal box. I've seen that where you just, because they're so easy to cut. So then you could cut the cereal box, flip it over.
Yep.
And I saw this one parent did this. It was really cool. And then she just put pictures of, or like cut them out of a magazine, I think, of the kids' favorite snacks, so that she could just flip that out and show it. But yeah, that would work for it with Alzheimer's and stroke. Then you just need to find what works for the person. Like sometimes they lose their ability to read, but sometimes they don't. And so there's the alphabet board is really cool too, that when you can get like an alphabet board and sometimes like spell things out, or you just have to be creative.
Exactly. And like AAC can be almost anything, any yes. kind of way to communicate. And I know a lot of seniors may be intimidated a lot more by iPads. Like that may be way more intimidating, that a cereal box might be a better way, with right? magazine pictures might be a better way to communicate with them. Mm-hmm. So I love that. I love that there's so many different approaches for this. Do you have a favorite AAC device or program?
I have a couple that I am more familiar with that I use the most. And one is Lamp Words for Life. I like it. I have a couple of kids that use it. I like that. So if you have a bilingual student, I have a lot of kids that speak Spanish or their family speak Spanish, then you can just hit one key in the top corner and it'll flip between English and Spanish that fast, which is so cool. And then Lamp Words for Life was created by an occupational therapist and his wife, who is a speech therapist. And so they created it for people with autism. And so it a lot of times I don't know, like I think you and I were talking about, it's like you kind of see what if you have the luxury of showing the student or the child a couple of different ones, and then you just go to what they seem to prefer, because maybe they prefer the layout of one more, or they relate to the icons more because the icons on each one are different. So Lamp Words for Life. And then also I really look for a robust communication system where it needs to have a lot of words. Like it needs to be language based. Like I believe a speech therapist needs to be involved in the creation of it. And I also look at how long has it been around, especially if I'm going to recommend it to a family. And this is just my way of doing it, but like say if there's something that's brand new, it might be great, but I'm going to wait a little while, because then what if they go under and then you're stuck with this app that you paid $300 or $400 for and it won't update? So I do think about that. But I also really like Touch Chat HD with word power. A lot of my kids really like that one. And I like that it has many different levels of the vocabulary. So you could get one that has like 40 images on the main page, or you could do like 60, or even, I think it goes up more. But so then, like say as a child increases their ability, then you might want to move up even more. Although I always try to have the most symbols that I possibly can on the main page, which I know a lot of people are like, well, why don't you start off with 1 or 2 and then expand? But we don't do that, because then the symbols change spots, and then our poor kid has to remember a new spot. And that'd be like if somebody all of a sudden changed all the apps on her cell phone, like you just memorize where the things are. So LAMP, Touch Chat, Proloquo to go, I've used that, and it's very robust, and they have like great all 3 of those have great developers behind them where you can get training. They have great websites. And then there are some other ones out there, like Cough Drop AAC is really nice if somebody kind of wanted a trial. So you can get their app for, I believe you can trial it for free for 2 months. So that's a really nice option. And they're so good with training, and they are big advocates for AAC, and they do a free conference every summer that is available. They have like 3 different tracks on it, where it's like one track is for parents, one is for AAC users, and one is for the like SLPs and OTs and people like that. So I would say that those are the main ones that I'm familiar with and support.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We used Proloquo, and I will say when my son went from his regular devices a little bit bigger and we had less folders to his newer device that was smaller and more folders, although when he first started, his fine motor wasn't quite, a lot of times he would hit the wrong button by accident and get very frustrated. His fine motor with that has gotten a lot better. So he can handle like smaller and more pictures now on the, on the main screen and closer, just closer together. So, but when we got his new device, the food folder had moved a little bit. I will tell you this, it did not take him long. That's his biggest motivator is snacks. And it did not take him long to find that folder. It had moved down in over a few spots. And he looked at it for a minute like, okay, what's this? And then he's like, I see food. Okay. And the other difference with this one, his original had I want as one. Now it's I want as 2 separate icons.
Mm-hmm.
But he is actually hitting the I and then the want and then going to the folder. And he started doing that almost immediately. So that's
that's awesome. Yeah.
Pretty incredible. That tells me that there was a little bit of the extra layer of thinking in his brain, which I'm so proud of for him for that. And we, like I said, we use the AAC on him a lot. And if we don't have it, we have some other form of communication. We get a little wary when my niece and nephew are around because they'll just button mash on it.
Yeah.
My kiddo has picked up that habit as well. And it's like, okay, but you have to tell us what one you want. And I'm like, I can't give you all of them. Pick one. And then eventually he will either pick one or he'll go do something else.
Perfect.
Which tells me probably doesn't want anything, or he's just, So, and that's kind of just like how we handle it. So I want to go back a little bit to schools and educations. Do you think that there is enough education for teachers in speech and language, like school-based SLPs on AAC, or do you think that we need more?
We need more, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
We,
I know we touched on that a little bit, and I just want to make that point ahead.
I think
Is there anything you think we can do to better that education?
well, I would say as a parent, parents have a lot more power than they realize within the school system. And so you can ask for what you want. And if you don't get it, then you can like go higher up, like find an advocate. Like if it's something that you believe is going to affect your child's education, then don't take no for an answer after just one time of asking. And I think that if as schools hear more from parents being advocates and saying, look, like my kid is entitled to a free and appropriate public education, then let's have like some training for the teachers, like kind of suggest it. And then I feel like the SLPs are getting better, kind of, I hope anyway, like as they come out of grad school and as AAC is kind of more in the spotlight lately, then I'm hoping that it will be something that everyone has at least a much better familiarity with. But I think it's like we've got a ways to go for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think that my son's school now is doing a great job, but in the past there was a lot of lack of education. I know they have actually the other day they had me meet with somebody when I was picking him up who was there as an AAC like coach at the school, and they wanted me to sign a release for him to work with them, and I said absolutely, I think that's great. So, and they were from an outside
Agency
school, so I was like, yes, I want you to work with my kiddo. Like, let me know if there's anything I can do or anything you need me to know. So I think that there is the push towards it, but like you said, we have to really advocate and fight. What are your best tips for parents and teachers in schools for AAC usage?
I'll give you like three of them I think that are like super important. One is to commit to having the device out and always just a couple feet away from the user. And I have started with teams that are like they're busy. Teachers are overworked right now, and so are the aides. I totally get that. So then sometimes like I'll go in and I'll say, okay, this is we've got a new student. This is a brand new device for them. They've never used AAC before. How about we just commit to having the device out and by them all the time? And then I might show them like a couple words that they could model. And I said, and give the kiddo some some dedicated time to explore the device, so that they learn, like, it's not a toy. I don't just get to play with it whenever I want to, but I can look and I can see all these words. So that's a big one, is the commitment to having it available, and somebody being responsible for charging it. And then the second piece is the importance of modeling the device. So by modeling, I mean where we, as the communication partner, we are going to use the device to communicate. We're still going to use our words. We're still going to talk, but we are going to, depending on what level the student's at. So like, say if we have a student that's at the one word level, where they're able to understand one word at a time, or even maybe utter like a word approximation, then we're going to model one step above them if we can. So if it's like go outside, then we're going to hit go, and then go outside, and without without immediate expectation of the student using it too. So our focus at first is just on us pairing some of those core vocabulary words with an activity that happens every day. So I always encourage them to pick something that they know is going to happen every day. Maybe snack time, maybe circle time, maybe like with the real young ones, they brush their teeth at preschool every day. Like pick something that's like not too difficult or crazy. And then every day you're going to go and say, okay, it's time to go outside or go for recess, and just commit to doing that is huge. And then also it's a good idea to have what we call the fringe vocabulary words in the device. So words that are specific to each child that might not be programmed in there. So if they need to be able to say that they want to watch Paw Patrol, or that if they have like a pet that they want to talk about, like you like as the SLP, you talk to the parent and you figure out what those words are and you make sure that they are accessible. So I think that those are really important things. And then I think too, kind of down the road, it's important to have some quick phrases programmed in, so that because sometimes it's like, especially as we're hoping that they're going to communicate with peers, it's hard to wait while they're looking for all of the words, and kids aren't that patient with other kids. And so if there are a couple phrases that would help them to participate more, and in some of the devices, they're programmed, if you go to the social button, then they have like, hey, what's up? Or see you later. So just having a few things like that and practicing them can let them have that feeling of a quick win.
Yeah. No, I actually really like that. And my son does have like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, my name is Joey, like some of that stuff pre-programmed in there. And I think that I agree that that's important. And again, everything that you said, I think is really important. Having the device accessible, having the device, make sure that you're modeling and you're using and you're showing, because kids learn from imitation. So I think that all of that's great. Is there anything else you'd like to share with my audience?
I would say just if you're a parent and you have a kiddo who you're looking at getting AAC for, they're never too young and it's never too late. So if you're thinking that it could help your child, then for sure look into it. And there's all kinds of resources now. Even if you just go to Instagram, you can find, you can access people on Instagram in the DMs, and a lot of us answer. So it would be like a good, for sure, a good start.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And where can my audience find you?
Well, definitely at Beautiful Speech Life on Instagram. I'm there every day, and except for sometimes I take Sunday off. And my website, beautifulspeechlife.com. Those are both good starting points for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Ann, for being here. This was really, really great in-depth AAC stuff. And I know, like I said, I've learned some things talking to you, and I know that there's a lot of parents who have kiddos with AAC. So thank you so much for being here. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode of Caregiver Chronicles. Let me share with you guys where you can find us if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback on this episode. You can find us at caregiverchroniclespod@gmail.com for our email, caregiverchronicles2 on Instagram, Caregiver Chronicles 2 on Facebook, and Caregiver Chron 1 on Twitter. We hope you have a lovely day. Thank you.